She sat quietly at the back of the military courtroom. No one paid much attention. People saw her as just another civilian witness in a high-profile case. The judge, frustrated by her quiet voice, slammed his gavel and asked her to speak louder. She leaned forward and whispered just 2 words. The courtroom went completely silent. A senior officer dropped his pen. Security officers appeared at every door. The judge turned pale and immediately called for a recess. Everything changed in that moment. No one would ever ignore her again. The courtroom was full of people, press, officers, and observers. The trial of Commander Jackson Wells was on its 3rd day. Sunlight poured in through the tall windows. Sitting in the back was Dr. Embry Thorne. She was calm and still, blending in. She wore a simple outfit, had her hair tied back, and wore no jewelry. No one noticed her, but she noticed everything. Captain Conan Nash, the prosecutor, stood with confidence. He said Commander Wells had ignored direct orders during Operation Scimitar. He claimed Wells had left his post, ruined a year-long operation, and put lives at risk. Judge Colonel Augustus Havelock, known for harsh rulings, listened seriously. Major Lana Caldwell, Wells's lawyer, stood up to object. She said they couldn't present the full story because much of the mission was still classified. The judge agreed but warned her not to try again without permission. Wells sat at the defense table, showing no fear. He looked back at the crowd, but Embry knew those glances were for her. Caldwell then called Dr. Embry Thorne to testify. A few people in the room were surprised when the quiet woman from the back stood up. She took the oath and sat at the witness. Stand. She introduced herself softly as a strategic intelligence consultant for naval operations. The judge told her to speak louder. When asked about her role in Operation Scimitar, Nash objected, saying her clearance wasn't confirmed. The judge agreed and kept blocking Caldwell's questions. Still, Embry remained calm. 2 high-ranking officers had quietly entered the courtroom and sat at the back. Only Embry noticed. Caldwell tried again, asking if Embry knew the rules Wells was operating under. Embry explained that Wells had backup instructions if certain conditions were met. Nash interrupted again. The judge warned Embry to stick to allowed topics or be removed from the trial. Nash whispered to his co-counsel, calling her an academic with no real-world experience. Embry's face didn't change, but her eyes showed something else. Finally, Caldwell asked a direct question. Did Wells follow another set of legal orders under Operation Nightshade? The judge had enough. He slammed the gavel and demanded a yes or no answer. Embry leaned forward and whispered, "Kingfisher Protocol." The room froze. A top legal officer dropped his pen. The 2 officers in the back stood up. Judge Havelock went pale. A female admiral came forward, showed her ID, and whispered something into the judge's ear. He looked shocked. She turned to the room and said the trial was paused under orders from Naval Special Access Programs. Security officers entered and collected phones and notebooks. Nash protested but was escorted out. Commander Wells looked relieved. The judge recessed the court until the next day and quickly left. Caldwell and Wells spoke quietly. Embry left the stand. The 2 senior officers who had entered earlier saluted her. Embry nodded slightly. Everyone now understood she was not who they thought. Outside the courtroom, she got a message. Kingfisher activated. Oversight Committee, 0400 hours. Presence required. She deleted it and walked away, unnoticed by most, but not forgotten. In the cafeteria, Embry sat with her back to the wall. A man in a suit joined her. It was Commander Vaughn Reed. He handed her a folder and said, "That was quite a performance." "It wasn't a performance," Embry replied. Reed said Kingfisher hadn't been used in 7 years. Many thought it was just a myth. "That's why it works," Embry said. She explained that Wells had done the right thing. The mission had changed, and following the official orders would have gotten people killed. Wells followed the backup, Kingfisher Protocol, which Embry had designed. Reed asked if she knew what people were saying about her. She did. Even the director, Harlan Hargrove, was furious. But it didn't matter. He had signed off on Kingfisher years ago. Embry reminded him that the program was created to protect field agents from political consequences. Reed told her the oversight committee would meet in 2 hours. She opened the folder, read through it, memorized what she needed, and destroyed the rest. Later, in a secure Pentagon room, 6 powerful people waited. Embry entered without hesitation. Everyone in the room already knew her reputation. Admiral Westerly led the meeting. Hargrove questioned why Kingfisher was activated for. A single seal. Embry explained. It wasn't about the trial, it was about the cover-up. Wells had followed orders from a protocol Hargrove himself had authorized. Embry gave them documents showing Hargrove's involvement. She told them she had written the original operation plan. Wells did what he was trained to do in backup. Protocols were triggered. Prescott, the JAG, said the paperwork made it look like Wells had no authorization. Exactly, Embry replied. That's why I activated Kingfisher. Westerly agreed that Embry's actions, though unusual, were necessary. She ordered the charges against Wells to be dropped and demanded an investigation into how the charges were filed in the first place. Hargrove would have to answer to the Secretary of Defense. When the meeting ended, Westerly asked Embry to stay. She told her the risk she took was huge, but necessary. Her cover was blowing in some circles. Embry already knew. Then Westerly surprised her. She wanted Embry to lead Kingfisher, not just as an agent, but as the deputy director in charge of rebuilding the program. As Embry left, she got another message. Court at 0900. Charges to be dismissed. Outside the courthouse the next day, Embry arrived early. People noticed her this time. Wells entered, calm and confident. Judge Havelock looked humbled. He dismissed the charges with prejudice, meaning they could never be brought again. The courtroom buzzed with quiet shock. As people filed out, Wells found Embry. You saved me, he said. They told me who you really are. Embry didn't confirm anything, but he remembered Kandahar in 2009. A mysterious agent had saved his team. He now realized that agent was Embry. She told him to take the training position being offered. They needed people like him to guide new teams. He agreed. 3 weeks later, Embry sat in another secure room, this time with the new leadership. She had been promoted. Her mission now was bigger. Rebuild Kingfisher, protect operatives, and make sure no one else was left behind like Wells almost had been. She had stepped out of the shadows. Not for glory, but for principle. The quiet woman no one noticed had now changed the future of military intelligence with just 2 words.